If you look at the picture I sent, Rhonda Ray was like, "You sent that?" I mean, it's not how she said it. She just kind of giggled like, "That's what your photo is?" Well, you can imagine who snapped that photo. It wasn't me. It was Rhonda Ray. I don't know that anybody could, but could anybody guess when that picture was taken? Not Rhonda Ray can't answer. That's exactly. Oh my word, Brother Mark got it. She took this picture after I finished wearing. My great nephew has a virtual reality headset, and my great nieces and nephew, want Uncle Danny to wear it and do this particular virtual reality game. It's not even really a game. You don't do anything. You just kind of are in the setting. I don't know. You can look around, I guess, but she took that picture after I finished. After I finished wearing it, and in this game, because if someone were to see that picture, they might think, "What on earth would he use that for?" Now I have a purpose. In the game, I was on a virtual roller coaster. And I mean, it wasn't even real. I mean, I knew it was fake. I know it's fake before I put the headset on. But something that might help someone understand the photo is I'm terrified of heights. And that's why they want me to wear the headset, is they know I am terrified of heights. I have a very hard time. I would not ride a real roller coaster with any sense. I've done some and very moderate ones, and I've been okay. But you know what? She took that photo right when it was over. But I was exhausted, and I hadn't done a thing but sit in a recliner. I knew the ride was not real. I mean, the whole time I'm on it, if you've not done these things, some of you might like it. Rhonda can do it. She can watch it. She'll hold her hands up like she's on a real roller coaster. But I knew the ride was not real. I knew that I was not really high up on anything intellectually. But when you put that headset on, even though I know in my head I'm not doing anything, unless you've experienced, I don't know how to explain, it is like you are on a roller coaster. I mean, my body, it felt like I'm turning in the chair when it would round something. It was the freakiest thing ever. And now, I mean, even though I'm not flying through the air, in my head, I know it's not real. But it does not matter. It did not change the fact that my body reacted to the game as if I were on a roller coaster. My body reacted. I mean, and my wife videoed it for her own amusement. And the kids enjoyed it. I did share it to some. If you have an iPhone, I could send the iCloud link. Sister Tammy sent, "This is awesome." But oh, mercy. It's terrible. But it's fake. I mean, I'm reacting to something that's not even real. That facial reaction you look at, and that's what I want you to keep in mind for my lesson. That is my reaction to something that I knew wasn't even real, but I couldn't help it. My body reacted. I knew I wasn't up on a high roller coaster, but that game, it's just freaky. It was like my body was moving along with that roller coaster seat. It messed with my head, literally. And I was, they got a kick out of my feet or something. How funny, huh? But it just messed with my head. I was even cautious. Now keep in mind, I know intellectually that it's not real. I know it's fake, but my body reacted as if it was. I actually was kind of cautious during the game because I was afraid I might actually get sick. I started feeling sick. I had some slight feelings of that nature. And here's what's funniest, is I had my eyes closed through most of it. You don't have to keep your eyes open. I had on a headset. But when I would open them, oh, it was terrible. I had my eyes closed through parts because I knew I was not leaving them open. It was too real. I'm not stupid. I mean, I did it for their amusement, but oh, y'all, it was horrible. But here's what gets me. My body reacted in such a way to this quote unquote fake game that I almost thought I could feel sick. And the funny thing is, none of what I was experiencing was even real. It's fake. It's a virtual thing. But you know what? It didn't matter because in my mind, it felt as if it was 100% legit. It felt as if it was 100% real. And when I thought about that photo is my reaction to something basically that was fake. But my body reacted. My mind reacted. And when it was over, Rhonda Ray apparently, she's crazy, was videoing me when I took the headset off. Because I just kind of had to sit there for a moment and breathe a little. It was terrible. And I've done it now for them, and they've gotten their fun. But I don't want to do probably, unless I just feel froggy and brave, I don't really care if I'm okay. I've had my experience for their amusement. And I knew that's why they wanted me to do it, so I did it for them. But when I looked at that, and you look at that photo, does my reaction look sincere? It was. It was, because it felt real. And I thought about how the devil will try and do that to us during our life situations. Not a virtual reality headset, but the devil will try and take something that's probably really nothing. And I'm sure any of us who've lived long enough, we understand this can happen. The devil can try and take something that really should be nothing. I mean, that game is really, it's graphics. It's made in such a way, it's obviously some fancy technology that they can do that, and you just put it on your face. But really, it's nothing more than computer graphics, isn't it? And whatever technology it is that makes you feel like you're in there. But my body reacted as if I was on a roller coaster. I mean, when it starts taking you up, it's not even taking me up looking at it. I'm talking about it like it did. When in that game, when it starts to move you up, it is like you are going up a thing. Oh my word. And when it turns, it's like my body turned with it. And I'm sitting still in a recliner. But I thought about how the devil will try and do stuff. He'll try and take something that's really nothing. That game is really, there's nothing real about it. It's all fake. But did my body recognize that? No. It felt real to me, didn't it? And the devil can do that. He can work in our minds to blow something out of proportion. I knew that game was not real. I'm just using it as my analogy today. I knew it wasn't real. Intellectually, I knew I was in my recliner in our home, and I was not in a roller coaster seat. But that experience created by that game in my mind felt so genuine. It felt so real that the whole time there was nothing real about it. It was all fake. And the devil would love to do that to our minds, wouldn't he? Make our minds a playing field to implant thoughts, implant feelings that we perceive to be real, but guess what? They may be fake. They may be fake. They may be nothing more than him to try and work confusion and turmoil and division. He can implant thoughts. He can implant emotions. He can take a situation, no, we don't have to let him, but he can try to take a situation, and something that really isn't even real to us will feel so real. He'll make it feel so awful, so terrible, so hurtful, so this, so that, so whatever. And before you know it, it's so easy to feel very real feelings of anger, real feelings of frustration, real feelings of aggravation, whatever they are, whatever it is you can battle. But the whole time it's fake. But to me, it felt what? Real. And that game made me think of that kind of as an analogy. That whole game is just a setup to make you feel like you're in something, to perceive something as reality that's not. That's the whole purpose of it. And that's what the devil would love to do, to paint a scene of perceived reality, when in actuality, it's fake. So what do I have a duty to do? Each of us do. It's not just for me. It's for each of us. But we have to guard our minds, don't we? And I know you know this verse in 2 Corinthians 10:5. Some of you might even could paraphrase what it is before I read it. But if you read that, or if you listen to me read it, 2 Corinthians 10:5, this verse is one that sometimes I think might ought to come to my mind more often than it. I probably should conjure this verse a little more often than I do. Because it's just easy to go about daily life, experiencing what you're experiencing. And we all have, and I've talked about the term perception a lot lately, it seems, we all have a perceived reality. And the devil would love to paint one before us. Oh, so-and-so ignored you, or so-and-so this, or so-and-so said that, or whatever it is. And before you know it, the feelings you feel, anger, frustration, being upset, aggravation, whatever they are, they're very real feelings, aren't they? I literally guarded myself, tried to, on that game, because I didn't want to feel sick. It wasn't even real. But my body was reacting in such a way as if I had been on the experience somewhat of a roller coaster. And I'm sure the real thing is still different, of course. I don't want to find out. But I have a duty to guard my mind, because the devil will try and plant things in there. And it reads in 2 Corinthians 10:5, casting down imaginations. He can create a lot of imaginary situations, can he? He can come to someone's mind. And if you don't battle, I mean, we all battle. I would assume it's pretty common among us. Especially, in marriage, your spouse says something and the devil can plant a thought. Well, what do they mean by that? Or the devil can plant a thought that you take something way more sensitively than you would have on another day. Whatever the case is, and it feels very real to you the way you're perceiving it. But what if it is possibly just the enemy trying to cause frustration? Casting down imagination. So some things, he plants that thought. It's a virtual reality of sorts from the devil. It feels real, and it's making real emotions, but it might even be fake. It could be just the pure devil trying to cause problems, because he loves problems. And every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God. And he would love to make you feel like if a thought can cause trouble, he'd love for you to feel pretty exalted in that thought, wouldn't he? And pursue it. Perceive it as real. The real feelings it gives you, whether it be frustration, doubt, confusion, whatever it is. He wants us to nurse those thoughts, because they could go contrary to the knowledge that God would want to give us about it. It could go totally contrary. God may want to say, would you chill out? He's just trying to stir you up for nothing. And bringing into, and this is often the verse is used for this, into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So I have a duty. Now, I knew that game that I was going to do. I knew what they wanted me to do. I knew that it was going to be a roller coaster. They were giggling before I think I put it on, weren't they, Rhonda Ray? Because they were prepared. Uncle Danny is going to do it. And I did it for them. But even though I knew intellectually that everything I was going through, there was no reality to it whatsoever. It was virtual reality. It was fake. It was created to be perceived as real. The devil will do the same thing. He can plant a negative thought, a hateful thought, a thought against a brother or sister or family member or whatever it is. You could have worked really hard to achieve peace with somebody, and the first thing that feels wrong, he wants to nurse that thought, doesn't he? They've not been sincere. They're just as bad as you thought it was. And it's fake. It's not, but every emotion you feel because of it is real to you, isn't it? But you got to be careful as an individual. We have to be careful reacting on our emotions all the time. The devil can try and get our minds to take a comment. Oh, thank you. That may have been made to us. He can try and make the silliest of comments all of a sudden in our mind are just terrible. Now, you may have never battled certain things yourself, but I think about it as an individual, just to be careful, to be very cautious, that just because a thought comes to my mind, I better try and bring it into captivity. Is it real? Or is it a fake thing from the devil just wanting to stir me up? A person could say something and they've really had no bad intentions. I think that can happen. I think when something is said to us, often we can overlook a lot of things, but when something's mentioned about someone we love, isn't it easier sometimes to take those more personally because it's someone you love? Sometimes that's harder. And it may not be that a person meant a thing when they've said what they've said, but the devil would love for my mind to create a hard feeling based on what was said, and it's fake. I have a misperception of reality. I knew in that game, I was in my recliner, sitting in that chair, and Rhonda, of course, tried to convince me to sit on a little stool. I'm like, no, I'm not sitting. She's like, you have to sit on a stool. No, I knew better. I sat in a chair. So I could, at least I had that security of that. But I knew everything going on in that game is not even real, but boy, your body reacts as if you're there, kind of. And the devil would love that, to react, to be reactive rather than proactive. A thought comes in, doesn't feel right. I nurse those emotions and those hard feelings. And now, boom, I'm upset and angry at somebody. And it can ruin your day. And all of it happens sometimes just in the mind, thankfully. We don't communicate it out because maybe you need to process it. And I want to be careful. I know that some things people say are just bad. I'm not excusing everything. Please don't misinterpret. I live in reality like you do. I know that some things people say are, quite frankly, I'm not diminishing the fact that some people are rude. They can be very ugly. in what they say. They can be very forthcoming and too forthright in what they address and how they address it, and it's very hurtful. Those feelings are just as real too. That's not a fake reality. Some people, unfortunately, just they're not very kosher. They don't have a lot of social graces, and they aren't the best sometimes at addressing situations. And maybe they still don't have bad intent. Maybe they still don't have bad intentions with the individual, but it wasn't nice. And those realities can exist. But sometimes people really don't have bad intentions. They don't mean a thing in the world, but the devil wants to blow things completely out of proportion. Before you know it, you can have a very real feeling that somebody meant something ugly when in reality they did not. And I know that sounds so simple, but boy, it can take one little fault like that. And the devil has built a whole scenario of reality that isn't even real. You're mad as a bull. You no longer want to talk to them. I mean, the devil can bring all these emotions. Well, why even talk to that person if all I'm going to do is feel upset afterwards? And sometimes in life, we have situations where we are more cautious with who we address and who we converse with, because it is stressful. Some people are stressful. But I got to bring my thoughts into captivity. And this is what I've learned with age. And I still need to, I'm still learning this with age. I probably need to do a better job in some ways. I thought of some things where I could have done a better job with this. But I think it's fair to say it's a lot better when a situation feels off to not immediately react every time. Just because we have a negative emotion or feeling about it or someone or something. Now, don't get me wrong. Some things are pretty black and white. Rude is rude. I mean, there are some comments that are just rude. Some people are so bold. They'll say things about their perception of how someone looks, and what if the person thought they looked nice? I don't understand. Why would you do that? I mean, do I think I'm the gold standard of how someone should always present themselves? No, that's just ugly. Or they only offer a compliment when you look exactly the way they think you should look. And we all do that to some degree. I had a little fella, he got a really nice haircut. And I've said, I often will say to kids, especially young boys, I'll say, I really like your haircut. You look so nice. And I tell them the story about this kid. And this is true. I had a little country boy in class that I absolutely adored. We got along very well. And it was popular at the time to have what they call a mullet. And so he had a mullet. Well, one day he came to school. He'd cut off his mullet. And the girls were like, oh, who's this? It changed him. It changed the way that child looked when he got a haircut. Well, honey, he didn't need any adult to encourage him. What do you think did enough of that? The girl's attention. So I know that sometimes there are things we compliment because we genuinely think it does suit or look at the person. You can't go around afraid to compliment somebody, because the devil, he can take anything out of context, or you know what I mean? But what I'm talking about is sometimes we can perceive and be right that something didn't feel right about what was said to us. I'm not taking away from that. But I think that one has to be careful, especially in reaction. We may perceive it as real, but it could be something totally fake from the devil, just trying to work somebody up in their emotions and cause division and confusion. I have to bring my thoughts into captivity. When I watched that game, what I saw of it when my eyes were open, I reacted during the game, didn't I, Rhonda Ray? And I probably reacted like someone who might have been on a real roller coaster. Would you say, Rhonda Ray? I mean, it's freaky. The funny thing is, what was true about all of it? Nothing. It was all fake. But my reactions were very real. And boy, doesn't the devil love that. Take a situation, ain't no truth to it. There's nothing true to it. There is absolutely no validity in what has been perceived. But he's just happy that the person will react as such. And now it can cause trouble, hurt feelings. Sometimes we perceive situations we have to be humble enough to say we can perceive something incorrectly. It's always interesting when you have a conversation. And sometimes you have conversations with people and you say, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't. And you're like, well, I was there. But they are so certain of their perception. And sometimes they cannot own that maybe their perception was incorrect until at least one other person validates they were wrong. I mean, that's just sometimes we all can be like that, right? Is that fair? We all have our perceptions of things. And it's easy to say, oh, no, I don't remember that, or I didn't take it that way. But sometimes we do perceive situations incorrectly. So we got to be careful. I need to be careful. I'll put it on me first. I need to be careful how I react. In Matthew 15:19, I don't want to fall prey to this. This is actually, it's kind of scary to think about what can come out of you as a person. In Matthew 15:19, for out of the heart proceed evil thoughts. Now, you may say, well, we're supposed to be living right. We don't have this. Well, I got a point, I promise. For out of the heart, we could say, certainly evil thoughts can proceed, can't they? The devil can plant a thought that leads to something evil from someone's heart. Murders. People who get jealous. And they've created a whole scenario in their head that in reality isn't even real. And now they despise somebody else. And they're out to get them. That can come from somebody whose heart's not right. Adulteries. The devil plants a thought. Somebody just knows such and so is in love with them. There is no reality to it. They've envisioned this ornate relationship. Maybe let the thoughts go way too far. And there's nothing real about it. Fornications, thefts, and the one that I want to talk about in a second, false witness, blasphemies. There are people who have, unfortunately, they've given themselves over to the devil, haven't they? They don't even profess to live right. And the thoughts and notions that he implants in their hearts and minds are what you see coming out. And it can be evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. And as a result, these people react to those evil thoughts and they commit terrible, sinful acts. However, I need to be careful too, don't I? I do not want to inadvertently, and I thought about this. The devil can plant a thought about a brother or sister, or maybe just somebody who's attending service who isn't even saved. Let's just say, for example, or someone you know at work, someone you know in your family. The devil can work and put a thought. Maybe you had an experience with someone, and now the devil wants to take that way too far. Oh, this person asked me to do this. Oh no, before you know it, they're going to expect me to do something every time they call me. Maybe they just needed your help. And all they did was ask one time. But you know what I'm saying? The devil can take things to an extreme. He builds a reality, quote unquote, in our mind. That's not even real. It's a virtual reality of its own, I guess, created by the devil. But I don't want to inadvertently, when I think about that word, bear false witness. Now, I don't want to lie on anybody. I would not in my heart want to ever purposely, by the grace of God, with God's help, if I say I'm serving him, I don't want to tell something false about somebody. But you know what? What if I tell others something that I've perceived to be true? Is that possible? Or something I've heard to be true from someone I trust. Before you know it, I'm telling it, and out of my heart is proceeding this perception of reality. Now, not only have I assumed it's true, now I'm telling others. Now, I've had stuff, I'm sure we all have, right? Maybe all of us, I don't know. We've had things said to us, and it just hits you. You're like, not that you distrust the person. It's someone you can value and care about. But you're like, now, how have they gathered this? How do they even interact with this person? And later on, you find out, I'm not quite sure what they based it off of, except maybe things they'd heard. But it's been told kind of like they've assumed it's fact. Or maybe they clarified and I don't remember, whatever the case is. But my wife and I had a similar situation like that, didn't we, honey? Where someone was kind of brought up and we were like, we didn't say much, I don't think, did we, Rhonda Ray? But this is what we have discovered. We have since met this person. They are absolutely precious. And I'm not, by the grace of God, what I heard is not going to skew what I have experienced, because that is reality. That is the true experience of that person. So, I want to be careful too. I may feel that what I feel about somebody is very real. I mean, stuff can be said, cautions can be given to you, and a lot of times probably with good intent. But it's becoming, if not careful, it's nothing more than a fake reality or potential reality that the devil's planting to cause more trouble. You can have good intentions, but man, you got to be careful what you share. Because the devil, even if you have good intent, the devil can bring that back later and say, well, why are they sitting around thinking somebody's going to do something like that? Why is Danny telling that? Why is he thinks he cares about me, and I appreciate that. But why is he warning me when absolutely not only did nothing come of that, but why was he sitting around assuming that might even happen? Because it can start to make it feel like I've been nothing but ugly about somebody else, couldn't it? And that part of that verse really stuck out to me when I read that. I thought, man, we can have our own perception of reality about somebody. But you know what? It can feel very real to us. Just like that game. But what was real about that game? Nothing. And what if what I'm feeling and wanting to share about somebody, there ain't nothing to it? And I'm sure we've all lived enough life to where that can happen. When I played that video game, anybody watching me while I was wearing that apparatus completely understood that what I was experiencing is nothing more than really a simulation, isn't it? It's a fake scenario. I was not actually, we know, on a roller coaster, but you couldn't tell that to my mind and my stomach. You couldn't tell it to them, because to my body, it felt very real. My body reacted as if I was truly experiencing a ride, and y'all, for me, it was terrible. To me, it felt real. And I think how the devil wants to tempt us to nurture negative or hateful thoughts, doesn't he? None of us wake up wanting to say we're going to have negative, hateful thoughts about somebody. But you know what? If he can create a misunderstanding in my mind, he loves it, doesn't he? Oh, he loves it. Oh, well, so-and-so this, or oh, so-and-so that. And he wants me to nurture negative thoughts. And I understand there is so much you can overlook. And sometimes you may just have to say to somebody, look, I know I don't really think you mean anything, but may, as your friend, I share to you that you come across very hurtful. And maybe sometimes, that can be a productive conversation if God leads someone in that direction. So there's a time, I'm being as fair as I can be. There's a time and place for everything, isn't there? But I know the devil can take petty things and try and make it this big old issue. Now that's terrible. It is not reality. He wants to implant a negative interpretation in my mind. And he wants it to feel very real to me, doesn't he? He wants me to feed on that implanted thought. He wants me to feed on that. He wants me to feast on it and nurture any bad feeling that he can cause from that, any greater frustration, any hard feelings. And again, some things people say they can be labeled as inexcusable, I understand. But there are times where the devil, he just wants to be a troublemaker. And he can take a scenario and he wants nothing more than for me to feel that it's very real and very bad. And that may not be the intent at all. It may not be anything at all. He wants me to nurture those feelings as if he wants me to feel that that's how things are just going to be. But I better bring my thoughts and emotions into, as we're told, captivity. Capture them and bring them under the direction of God's Holy Spirit. If I don't, this is what's scary about it. If I don't, I could really cause problems that otherwise would never have existed, even if it's just mental turmoil. Now notice, I may not ever say anything to Brother Mark or Pastor Allen, or even, I may not even say anything to my wife about some things. She's thinking, please, Lord. But I mean, what if I don't even tell her? But I might be experiencing that turmoil inside. Because the devil knows, oh, he may not share it, but boy, I'll try and tear him up. And I'm a nervous wreck. Over what? It may be fake. I mean, you see my face in that photo she snapped. After I took that headset off, I was like, whoa. I just wanted to, try to take a moment and just relax there. And the whole thing was fake. But it wore me down. Boy, the devil will do the same thing if I let him. He doesn't have to, if I let him. And sometimes that's hard. I'm just being honest. I feel I better be careful. I need godly discernment. In Hebrews 4:12. In Hebrews 4:12. Now, had I owned one of those virtual reality sets, it would have been really neat as a demonstration to have one of you wear it before I start the lesson. Talk about making the lesson real to you if you're not familiar, if you've never done one. Hebrews 4:12. For the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. I need God to help me discern, okay, Lord, is this really worth it? Is it really worth spending my time stressing over wondering what was meant here, or is that just the devil? Because he can help you. He can give you relief with situations. The picture I shared this morning, again, is an image Rhonda Ray snapped after I removed those goggles, the headset, and I was reacting to what I had just experienced. It does tickle me. That reaction is very real, isn't it? Based on everything that was artificial. Based on an artificial experience. 100% fake. It was not even real. There was nothing real about what I had endured, but my reaction was very real. And boy, isn't that how the devil loves to operate? Working somebody's mind up, working on your nerves, working on your emotions. You've had a great day, and the devil will try. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You've had a great day. You've thought nothing of anything. You'll be driving home when you're quiet. You've had a great day. All of a sudden, the devil will say, well, I wonder what Johnny meant when he said this. And you're like, huh. Well, what did he mean? And the longer you drive, the madder you get. Isn't that stupid? But the devil's real, isn't he? It's a fake situation. I've hopped myself up over something that ain't even real. God help me to be careful. If you've mastered that, you pray for Danny. I've had thoughts come to me, this is true. You can be just fine. Something that happened 24 years ago. Huh. Boy, I'd like to tell them, it's just so stupid. And if not careful, you feel angry over something that happened 24 years ago. And God help me. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. The devil wants me to react in ways that would not be Christ-like, because there is shame in that. There is no shame in being cautious and careful and prayerful. But he doesn't want me to act that way, does he? He wants to plant a thought. Well, brother so-and-so acts like I don't even exist. He ignores me. Because everybody wants to feel cared about, right? I think that's a pretty common emotion. Even people who are introverted, they may not need that interaction or that confirmation of a verbal exchange every time, but they still, in their own way, want to feel like they matter. However, they get that from close personal relationships, a lot of times with very close friends and close family. But other people need it much more regularly. People who are very insecure. People who are very insecure about being accepted and included. Often they will search for that validation, and especially kids will do things for validation that they normally would never do because they just want to feel like somebody likes them, somebody cares. So if I take that, that's probably pretty common among us as humans. Brother so-and-so acts like I don't even exist. He ignores me. You know, before you know it, that thought can turn into bitterness. You despise that person. Discontent. And there may be zero truth in the thought that the devil put in your mind about brother so-and-so. It's a fake reality, just like that game. But now it feels very real, doesn't it? I've nurtured a thought and emotion that I had a physical reaction in some regards to that game. It's fake. He wants us to have a physical reaction. My reactions to the thoughts, though, unfortunately, can be very real. Suddenly, I don't even want to look. Now, hopefully this wouldn't happen, but just as an example, you don't even want to look at brother so-and-so. I give him, as they say, cold shoulder, because I think he deserves to know how I feel. Basically, what do I have? I have a bad attitude when he speaks to me, and then when I respond. I'm allowing a bad attitude to work in me. I should not be acting that way, really, even if brother so-and-so hadn't been very nice to me. What good am I doing by reciprocating the same sentiments and the same actions? I shouldn't be. But to act that way because I believed a lie the devil has implanted in my mind is even sadder. All I've done is create a reality, had a very real reaction to it, and all of it was fake. It's just from the enemy. But it feels real to me, unfortunately. I'm not even giving in this situation, I thought about it this way, I'm not even giving that person the Christian benefit of the doubt. I'm just acting like what I feel has to be the way it is. Because my feelings are dictating the situation to be real to me. And I thought, Lord, help me be careful. Help me to be cautious with that. I don't want to get a wrong spirit to get a hold of me and then waste my time trying to validate all the wrong feelings I'm experiencing. That's a sad way to live, isn't it? Have a wrong spirit and then spend the rest of your time validating your wrong feelings, and all they're doing is making yourself and everybody around you miserable. And that ain't worth it. That's not sincerity. Well, you're sincerely in a bad situation, and I would need help. In Song of Solomon 8:6, set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. Love is a strong emotion, isn't it? When you perceive a reality, whether it's real or not, that a loved one's been hurt or affected, it can create very real reactions in somebody, can't it? I mean, there are people who claw your eyes out when really they should be backing off and saying, well, your loved one helped create this scenario. Your loved one was part of the problem. But nope, I'm going to defend them until I die. I hope you don't bring about an early death because you exhaust yourself letting someone else who should know better make excuses for themselves. It's easy to say that when you see someone else doing it, but I want to be fair. It's also easy to make excuses for what I'm feeling too, isn't it? Love is strong as death is final, but love can make you make some very finite, settled decisions that are not wisdom because of that emotion that you feel so strongly for someone else. Sometimes it's hard to say to a loved one, well, honey, your attitude was just as bad. You kind of made the situation worse, didn't you? Some of us don't want to say that to somebody we care about because you don't want to see that hurt and that realization that they have to own that. But sometimes it's what's best. And this is the one I was driving for. Jealousy is cruel as the what? I've heard that for a long time in my life. People have used that verse. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. To see someone who's jealous, y'all, it's almost, to me, it's a little unnerving. It would make me feel very uncomfortable to really feel comfortable with the person. Because if someone can be that reactionary to something they perceive as reality, what could they tell about me? If they perceive a reality about me that's not true, jealousy is cruel. It is a terrible thing to battle. The coals thereof are coals of fire. They burn you. You're going to burn. You're going to burn yourself, and you can burn people around you. You can burn those who love you, to use it as a metaphor. You get burnt. They want nothing to do with you because of that jealous spirit. You've got this perception of reality. It's this way. This is how it is, and all it is jealousy and paranoia driving the person, which hath the most vehement flame. And I hope none of us would battle, that kind of spirit. But God's word tells us jealousy is as cruel as the grave. It kills. It can kill affections and emotions between people who actually loved each other. Because someone can't let go of something, they let it destroy a healthy relationship. Movies are made. Entertainment is created around a plot line involving a partner becoming jealous of someone that they think is after their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, don't they? I mean, people get murdered. Probably, I guess in real life over this kind of crazy stuff. People end up dead. And then they make movie plots about it. Jealousy is a cruel thing. The devil can have people creating scenarios in their minds that they think are real. I'm just using this as an example. This is one example I think about with the concept of jealousy mentioned in the Bible. They're convinced that another person's after the one that they love. And what I tell you, it's one thing for someone to hurt you, but what does it feel like when they go after someone you love? That's worse sometimes, isn't it? And the devil would know that. So he creates a false perception of reality. And now that person thinks it's true. And do you think all that jealousy they feel is real to them? Oh, my word. Oh, my word. I've never experienced this. Thank God. What am I to be jealous over? But anyway, I think about people who can't even speak to someone else. They can't even talk about someone from their past. And I'm like, that's scary. That is a scary spirit. It makes me cautious. It would make me cautious to be around someone like that sometimes, because you think they can involve themselves in allowing the devil to create such a misconception of reality. What could they create about one of us if they get mad at us? And then tell. Because they're acting on that spirit of jealousy anyway. It is so sad. No matter how much others can try and convince them that they're wrong, you have nothing to worry about, this is ridiculous, you're making this up, They've created that scenario in their minds and they are settled. They believe it. It can drive them crazy with jealousy. They can lose all rational sense. They'll start putting stipulations on people in relationships, all because of some misconception, a reality the devil painted that they fell prey to. They truly believe someone's after, let's say, their partner in life. And isn't that the most common jealousy one, probably? Like a wife or a boyfriend or girlfriend. It can happen with money. I could have used that, but this is the one that popped in my head. And everyone else around them, quite frankly, thinks they're crazy. They see it. You're crazy. Ain't nobody after your whatever. I mean, but they perceive it. And I share this because that's kind of something we all probably, God forbid you've experienced it, you've probably seen it in some form, or you've watched something with it in it. But is it easy to convince that person that they're letting a false reality drive them? Is it easy to convince them it's fake? No. And boy, isn't that what the devil loves to do? He wants us to fall prey to a perception of reality that he paints because it'll foster negativity, hurt feelings, hard feelings. Things get said and shared that should never be shared and said. All because we give prey. I sat in my recliner and yelled in that video, if somebody watched it. I holler. I'm sitting in a recliner. What am I hollering at? A fake reality. And I'm reacting to it as if it's real, aren't I? Well, the devil would love for us to do that too. Because now things can be said, things can be shared, things can be spread, ultimatums can be given. Well, brother so-and-so doesn't seem to accept me. We're not having him and his spouse over for dinner. It's my house. You know what? I better be careful, hadn't I? Brother so-and-so may be on their path straight to glory, but I may be giving myself prey to a bad attitude and a wrong spirit. Feelings can be terrible motivators for our actions when the feelings come from a misunderstanding, a misconception, or from a temptation. And if I can repeat those. Feelings can be positive motivators. Because you love your spouse, you are true to them. Because you love God, you are faithful. Those are good things, aren't they? Feelings can be terrible motivators, though, when they are driven by a misunderstanding, a misconception, or a temptation to get at someone who has wronged us or aggravated us. Such actions should not be named among believers, and we know that, right? But we are human beings. I'm not making an excuse for sin. Don't you misinterpret that. I'm not making excuses for wrongdoing. But if I'm convinced I'm correct, even though it's a misperception of correctness, I yelled in my recliner during a game because it felt like I was on a roller coaster. But it wasn't real. Did it change the fact it felt real? No. So sometimes things feel very real to us. You know what? I could react according to a misperception or a false understanding of reality because I've given heed to a thought the devil implanted in my brain. But if I want to live right, here's what I'll do. I can go back to that person and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I really should not have done that. That was unfortunate, and I really think that I misinterpreted and I reacted accordingly, and that wasn't fair to you. You know, I need to bring my thoughts and actions into captivity of God's Holy Spirit. Because if I don't do that, I can make, quite frankly, I'm being very blunt, I can make a complete idiot of myself. You can sit and argue with somebody, something's wrong or something's true, and then only to find out, honey, you're the one that's wrong. That's not right. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. And they're so definitive in their response, and they're not even remembering correctly. Once I took off that virtual headset, I was able to perceive reality much better. And I need to make sure that when I'm approaching life situations, I have the correct perception of reality before proceeding. I don't want to let my flesh dominate and lead me, because if I allow the flesh to lead me, that could cause me great harm. And God forbid, cause me to sin. Now I got to go back and make correction or repentance. With God's help, none of that has to happen. But in 1 Corinthians 9:27, this is what we got to do with God's help, through the grace of God. But I keep under my body and bring it into what? Subjection. Lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. It's easy to perceive other people's situations, isn't it? It's easy for someone to watch me with that headset and think, why is he acting like that? Ain't that silly? That ain't even real. Well, you wasn't wearing the what? Headset. You weren't in the situation. It's easier sometimes to perceive somebody else's situation with greater clarity because we ain't involved. We have no feelings invested in what they're experiencing, so it's easier to be subjective. It's easier to be fair to everyone involved because you don't have any personal investment. But boy, when we have feelings invested, when it affects us personally, and when we're involved with something that feels frustrating, boy, it's easy to interpret things based on how they make us feel. That video made me feel, that virtual thing made me feel like I was in a roller coaster, but I really wasn't. You know, I could tell somebody else, oh, that virtual game's fake. Everything you experience, it's not real. Just remind yourself of that when you're wearing the headset. You go ahead and do that. You go ahead and remind yourself of that. Those are easy words to say. But what happens when you put on the headset? You become immersed into a situation that seems so real, literally my body reacted accordingly. It was felt that real. So it was easy to get, it might be easy for somebody to give advice, but I might need reminding of it myself when I face a situation. I don't want to become a castaway in a situation because I can only see it for someone else. But when I'm faced with it, I just want to react selfishly, make excuses, let my flesh lead me. Whatever it is, God forbid. I need to perceive it as reality. The devil can plant a thought that just seems so, he's evil. He's here to destroy us. It seems so real. I can just know that so-and-so meant something that he or she said a certain way. Just use that as an example. Someone's battling that thing we read about, the jealousy spirit. They just know so-and-so's after so-and-so, or so-and-so's being unfaithful. If I'm not careful, my reaction may be completely inappropriate to a situation because how I perceived what has happened is simply incorrect. And I got to be careful. My flesh wants to rear its ugly demeanor and dominate if I let it. In Romans 8:13, for if you live after the flesh, ye shall what? Die. But if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. God gives us greater strength if I let him. The virtual reality game I played was as fake can be, but my body didn't react as if it were fake. And it's not my thing. Intellectually, I knew everything I was experiencing wasn't real, but my mind perceived it as a very real thing. And I pray that I can keep my thoughts, for me, as I think about this lesson, keep my thoughts in subjection to Christ and his Holy Spirit. I need his help. The devil wants to implant a false reality in me to see if I'll react negatively. God help me to be cautious. I pray that when something feels real to me, I'll still be careful how I handle a situation in case I'm misinterpreting or in case my perception's off. And sometimes the easiest way to figure that out is you can just ask somebody. But what does the devil try to tell you not to do? Well, don't talk to them about it. They'll just make up an excuse. Oh, don't bring it up. You're going to embarrass yourself. He'll fight everything he can do to get you to not do the one thing that could bring you clarity. And sometimes that's just talk to somebody else. So I pray God help me. We'll take a break.